Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.co and the Rational Investors Bitcoin summary videos for YouTube here, our free video offering we have on YouTube. I am Brian Beamish, the Rational Investor. Some people know me as CR Investor. I think my Twitter feed is CR Investor. Anyway, you probably recognize this logo. And you probably recognize my super sexy voice, right? Anyway, let's get on to Bitcoin and enough of the silliness. Been one heck of a wild ride here of late, and what I think for this video here, and I try to do these sort of like Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of idea, and maybe we'll do one Sunday if time permitting. And for the YouTube video here, I like to sort of do the higher time frame analysis. And really, the irony of it all is as traders, you can get just as much information off of the daily charts as any lower time frame. You just have to understand what you're looking at. But that's here nor there. But anyway, and then we might take a look at the 4 hour, depending on what time it is. I don't want these videos to go too long for you. So here is our daily Bitcoin chart over the past year, and you can see, a good technician probably should write up, really mark up your chart. So that's one reason why I like to use these TradingView guys, is you can really write lots of stuff all over your charts and save them. But what I find really interesting is, I had postulated for a while that, we probably had some sort of inverted head and shoulders thing going here, and that we really needed to see a test of the OTE long sweet spot. That's this long zone here to make another shoulder. And now you can really see trend line off of the top, OTE, inverted head and shoulders. I mean, there's so many reasons why we could really see a move down into this sort of mid 400 area. One thing I just would point out before we get going in earnest here, this is basically, one calendar year ago, and the price action then, I might even just draw this off of these highs here. And, this was the Silk Road event that brought the market down into the OTE, the right shoulder of an inverted head and shoulders pattern. And the violent reversal and then breakout through the top was like a huge signal that we were going to just rock and roll higher. And I remember I did like a video and I did blog posts and all of this about, I postulated, could this happen again? Right? So, and it's interesting that I just so happen to have this saved on the chart. But, there's the OTE zone right there. And here's that spike right down into that event. And it was just a quickest of reversals, eh? So I just find it fascinating how the market, we don't have any Silk Road talk, but it's incredible in the trading chat how I kept hearing about, oh, this exchange was being hacked and that exchange was being hacked. And so hacked is sort of like the big boogeyman word in Bitcoin land. Anytime price is just in free fall and making new lows, oh no, it's a new conspiracy. Somebody's hacked something. Long and short of it here, this is this inverted head and shoulders go around. Here's the OTE zone. The Silk Road event. It was just bam, bam, right? I mean, the irony of it all is that just now it's a little bit more of an orderly sell-off. So it's not end of the world sell-off. It's just every day making lower lows and lower highs, and just driving you crazy. It was interesting actually at the very beginning of today. And you guys have heard me talk lots about why the market ran out of steam up here, right? Pretty obvious. Then the significance of 38.2, and this trend line that I drew off of this high and this low, and how we just sort of broke right through that. Sadly, now this is going to be a pretty substantial level of resistance on the upside. 530-ish or so. I even suppose this 545. That is going to see some major, because anybody who sort of bought in here and was humming and hawing, right, and here, and then of course anywhere here, if they ever can see those prices again, they're just going to be like, oh, just get me out, please, just get me out. And then, of course, all the people that missed the original short, right, because if we follow market structure, this is one big nasty top now. That's an M. There's no way to debate that. So, those people that missed the trade on the initial flush, there's going to be a whole bunch of orders sitting there saying, okay, good, phew, I got the trade on. My stop is up here. I'm basically in the M, right? So, I suppose we could probably add a new trend line off of this. This like 545 low to this low here now. So, oh, gee whiz, and what a coincidence, So this is probably your resistance line, and gee whiz, look at that. I wonder if you two are going to start lining up. So we have to draw that off of that low there. So there's 38.2. There's that trend line there. And interesting how, just to get back to this trend line here, now it's going to take a rally right back up into the OTE sweet spot. And we know the OTE sweet spot, this is where the institutions want to short if they're thinking about shorting. So here we are, we're getting closer down into this OTE zone. And it's really interesting, nobody has a crystal ball. You just don't know. We might go boom right down to this trend line, right? And then have to play a little bit to try and recapture the 78.2. My hunch is that the institutions probably have a vested interest in trying to defend this area because this is where the market bottom last go round, right? So if that's the case, then I could very easily see OTE sweet spot, right? That's the exact beginning of that breakout right there. And then, our consolidation kind of idea. It's really tough to basically start calling a bottom in here. And the fact that we're just losing these levels, you can see how 38.2, put up a fight for all of less than one session. It sure tried, and like each time we hit these key levels, a new little intraday setup would come in, and I would tweet about it and all that kind of stuff. And so you can see here's 38.2, here's those key lows, right? So you can see it actually shot down away from it and came back and closed right at the trend line here, right? So there was a setup there, right? And if it had accepted back higher, then away you go. But boom, nope, couldn't accept that. See ya. Then this trend line, look how it bottomed off this trend line, lost that. And then the rally back after that, then the next day it was the 50% level. So here's 50% level, 504.47. You can see how it zoomed past it, came back, closed the day at that level. So people are like, okay, well, maybe now we got something to work with. Next day opened up on a little bit higher range. And the problem here, of course, is, it actually looked to me like, and this is sort of the day that I'm commenting. This was the day's action in North America. This is now a new session bar for the following day, like in Asia and stuff. It's a brand new day there. But I'm commenting about this bar is, we opened up well off of the lows, and we were just sort of swimming around in here, and we definitely had the potential for a harami. And if the market had just calmed down and just settled down, and the sellers have finished, and then this day opening up we went up through the high of this bar, then that would be harami, and we could actually start feeling bullish again. Not to happen. So basically in my blogs and stuff, I was the fact that we broke this low, you can see that the market came back and tried to close back above it again. The fact that we broke the low at all suggests there's just no bottom here, right? It just isn't here. And the irony of it all, right, of course, is that if you're just a simple trend follower, then you got lots and lots of sell setups. There's a sell setup, right? And then we had this one up here. That was just a really quick one. In fact, that was, I think, a bearish harami right up there, wasn't it? No, it wasn't bearish harami, but there's a little bearish inside bar there. I do remember there was a setup here around 640. But anyway, the more noticeable one, of course, was this double top within a double top there. And then, we just had one, I was humming and hawing about risk, but nonetheless, there's an M top. And, in class recently, we've been talking about market structure. So if you look at these bottoms, they're V's, right? And then the V's get busted. We had a potential W, but we never got to move back up through the top here. So just V after V after V, another V. This is V-ish. For us to start getting bullish, we really got to see, conversely, we had lots of M's, right? We got to start seeing some W's. But it's just not there. So, and they say you can't push a chain. So I'm certainly in no big hurry to start, calling bottoms here. Very dangerous stuff. Here is the OTE. It's been there for quite some time. And the interesting thing, right, is now we're actually getting it. We're not there yet. And it's interesting because on Phoenix, on the 15-minute chart, we're sort of talking about this too. But on this daily chart, you can see how we actually have developing here a potential OTE within an OTE. So you have a lower time frame OTE. That's this this sweet spot, 437, and that OTE is within a bigger OTE, right? And that's this big weekly OTE. It goes from 293 all the way up to 464, 465. So its sweet spot is for 375.96, right? So that's it's very realistic that we have to go back down there. If this is this head and shoulders, I sure like this idea of a low of 430, which would be right there. 437.24 is the OTE sweet spot just from this spring rally. So I would absolutely love to just see a nice bottom right in this 437 area, and you might be given just one heck of an excellent buying opportunity. We're not there yet. I think that if you are short-minded, and keep in mind a lot of people don't like to short. When I was a broker, something like 80 to 90% of all stock business is long, not short. So it takes a special breed to hearken to the shorting side. So you be active. Those that are either long only, well, I guess those that are long only, or basically you're either in poorly trade. What am I trying to say here? Those that are long only, those that are still long only, should be playing these higher time frame setups, right? So you bought this massive breakout here, 554, and your stop's down here below these lows at what, 411 or so. That's this massive, this is I guess almost a weekly breakout. And I'd have to say, here's 78.6, right? And we say that if the market loses 78.6, right, which just so happens to be the bottom of these range, according to this, it's 410.68, and these lows, like we said, 411 or so, eh? What a coincidence. So if the market loses that 78.6, we often say that, that's not a good sign. So, for the Bitcoin. So, I think, we're actually coming up on what I would consider to be a very, very interesting trade for, location for prospective, long-term bulls, right? Those people that really don't consider themselves traders, they consider themselves sort of buy and holders, and they're just looking for really interesting long-term entries. Where we do not have the buy signal, right? It's just not anywhere in sight right now, but we're starting to get into very interesting levels. Like sort of back when we were in the spring and we started bottoming. I think guys have joked with you, all you need are just a couple of these kind of setup trades through the year that agree on these higher time frame charts and that have good momentum, and you're made in the shade. You outperform like 80-90% of all investors ever. So, we're starting to get down into that kind of area again, and this took from April, the end of April, right through the middle of May. It took that long to develop. Maybe this takes from the middle of August right through to the middle of September to develop. Could be. Very possible. But like I said, long and short, a message of this video today is Thankfully for you YouTubers, we're finally getting into an area where I would actually consider, and I will probably be really watching in the PAM account, an area we really ought to be paying close attention to on for long position trades. So, not a lot of bullishness to report today, but price is basically moving into an area that I'm getting very, very interested about. It's not going to happen today or tomorrow. It's probably take a couple of weeks to develop, in my opinion. This has got OBV. We got to slowly put in some sort of bottom here. We're still in sort of the selling orgy right now. I don't know where the lows here are going to be. In fact, nobody does. My hunch is, OTE, this trend line, that previous shoulder and that low off of this pivot here, those are probably all perfectly valid areas to be hunting for. And, here we are at 480-ish or so. That's, maybe 50, 60 bucks lower. That's definitely possible. Interesting to see how we now are starting to get some interesting bullish momentum divergence now on the chart. So after having a bearish momentum divergence for months and months and months and complaining about it, you see how these divergences finally play themselves out. Now, as the market's getting bearish and panicky and the public's starting to panic, we're getting bullish momentum divergences starting to develop. So, the jury's still out. This certainly isn't confirmed. I would still consider this potential. My little scenario seems to be playing out quite nicely here. I drew this probably about 2 or 3 videos ago, where I was looking for a low, a rally back, then a nice deep test of the lows, and then we want to see a turn. So, these lows are minus 12, yeah, a couple minus 12 readings. We got a minus 10 here, minus 7, so minus 10. Let's see how she acts in here. Obviously this is a much lower low than this one. If we can get any sort of bullish turn in here, here comes Mr. Mountain Man's trade, 465.77. So that's only what, like 20, not even 18 bucks away. Maybe Mr. Mountain Man gets his fill here through the weekend and reverses. And of course, Mr. Mountain Man, he always makes money. If we draw the extension target off of Mountain's 61.8, 38.2 would take us back to 544. We get a rally back up into there. That might just confirm this bullish momentum divergence. So, and now finally, look, Willie's finally starting to roll over in earnest, And really, the interesting thing is, as buyers, right, we want to start getting this kind of action. It may take, a few weeks to play out, but we're finally getting into a zone where we can actually start seriously considering about, spending money. Just like when we got into this zone, I mean, it didn't top out in one day. It took quite a while to top out. But on balance, you really did not do yourself any favors being a buyer up here, right? I mean, Willie was stupid up here. You really shouldn't have been buying here. Now Willie's starting to work his way down. We've been going through just a bearish, horrific mess. It's interesting to listen to my partner as sort of a young investor. He's just a young guy. He's only in his 20s. He's really starting to get worried. I mean, he's really stressed. And the irony of it all is he just doesn't understand. All of this is a risk, right? I mean, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. But the irony of it all is that the public's getting stressed, and Joe Sixpack's getting stressed, and we've been going sideways to down for so long. The irony of it all is that the public doesn't realize is we're just now getting into an area where the institutions actually are like, I'm getting interested. Maybe I should start buying. Isn't that interesting how that works? So anyway, why don't we leave it at that for now? No buy signal today. Things are cleaning themselves up off of this spring rally. I find it very interesting how this is happening right into the end of the summer. And the stock market usually tops out the end of the summer, and it usually has a pretty tough September, October. And of course, remember from last year, comparison speaking, we had a pretty tough late summer. Well, not a tough late summer. I guess the summer, this was a correction. Then we came out and broke to new highs heading into the fall. I don't know if this is going to be the similar play out. But you can see how quickly Bitcoin can go from either sanguine and bearish to outright ridiculously bullish very, very quickly. So, I'm certainly not saying that this is exactly how it's going to play out, but my feeling is that, actually those that are interested in buying Bitcoins, we're now starting to get into, I mean, we're not there yet, but we're starting to get into an area where you as actual investors should really start paying attention. So, I think on balance, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. All right, so anyway, why don't we leave it at that? I probably talked way too long. Julian's going to be all pissed off at me, but, I like to really leave you guys with a nice, clean, full picture of what it is that I'm looking at. So have yourselves a great day. Why don't we leave it at that? Great evening, great weekend, and we'll talk to you in a couple days. Bye for now.